Hi everybody, welcome back to Spruverse, my scale model universe, and part one of a brand new build on the bench. This time we're going back in time, but across the galaxy to a time when the great Mel Brooks was spoofing Star Wars, and he came up with Spaceballs. If anybody remembers the movie, if you haven't seen it, I urge all of you to see it. Ridiculous and a lot of fun. But the star of the show for me personally was in fact the Ranger 5, the spaceship that was commanded and flown by the great pilot Lone Star. And of course his faithful companion Barf. I mean, come on. It was a lot of fun, but the one thing you can't ever forget is the fact that nobody knew an RV could get you from point A to point B in the universe. But in Mel Brooks' insane world, of course you can. And I am a huge Mel Brooks fan, so for those of you who are not, I apologize up front. But when I had an opportunity to get this garage kit, I leapt at it. Now, for those of you who are jumping up and down and going, I want one, this was originally offered by Golden Armor. And Chris Adrian over there had it and still has it on his website, but he has it shown as out of print or out of stock or not available at the moment. And I spoke to him about it, and he just said that the molds were really bad at this point and shot, and he hasn't thought about getting back around to it. So that was that. But in having a conversation with my friend Randy Cooper, he happened to say, hey, I've got that kit. I said, you do? He said, I do. I said, are you going to build it? He said, I don't think so. And now I have it. So if I don't build it, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. But so a big thanks to Randy for letting me have his. And now the real star of this show is going to be the great Jeff Fink. I've talked about Jeff in the past. He's a dear friend of this show. He's a dear friend of the community. And his talent knows no bounds. And in us having just a catch-up conversation a few weeks ago, he said, Phil, why don't I help you with that? I think we could do better. So, you know, he goes to work as he does, and literally, not weeks later, but a day or two later, he's back with brand new engines, brand new engine mounts. He is working on some of the exterior details, and we'll get into those in just a minute. And also a fresh set of decals for me. So I am golden and so excited to be working on this. Now, I have been doing some cleanup of the RV carriage, and you can see I've cleaned out all the windows. I have been working on cleaning out the rear. I've got a little bit more cleanup to do, and of course the driver's side windows door and the front of this. Now these were all when this kit arrived, they were all sealed up, not permanently, but you know, it's that classic how you pour a mold, and so to keep it as clean as possible, it had a little bit of sort of thin resin on the backs, and I've punched those out and cleaned those up. And there are also some other details on this ship now that are relatively crude. But that's going to work. I think it's going to work to our advantage, because I intend to have this weathered and busted up and looking kind of as the filming miniature did. you know, there's some things we've got to think about and we've got to work on. So as I'm cleaning it up, I had, you know, in classic fashion, I had some resin spill over here, and you can see where I've been grinding it out. And so these areas here, I'm going to get some strips of plastic and replace these. So these look good here as well. In here, I'm going to clean this up a little more, and this is going to get a little bit of mesh. I'm going to use some screen door mesh like this, and that's going to live on that part there, and then maybe we'll add a frame over it so it has a little bit of depth. But I'm going to clean that up, and I'm going to use that for that. And there are some other little plugs here. Obviously, on an RV, these would have been for water, they would be for sewage dump, that sort of thing. And so we'll probably find some little watch parts or brass rings just to clean those up and give it a little punch. We're definitely going to create some louvered screens for these, and perhaps even a little cloth curtain. I don't know, it might be fun to do that. Jeff is also working on an interior for me, and so we're going to be seeing if we can do something with that. We're going to light it, so I've already punched out for the lights. We'll have headlights here. These will be white. There are amber little reflectors at the top here, and I'll just sort of, I'll figure out how we're going to do that. Most likely a little bit of some of the clear acrylic resin hardened off. We'll mix it with some of the orange Tamiya clear, and we'll get our little reflectors in there. So those should be golden. And same in the back, but these will be red lights here on the bumpers. And what I've done is I've been sourcing a few things to work on. I found a model of an AMC Mack truck that actually had some things on it that I'm using, like these. Actually, this is probably the one I'm going to use. These lenses here. These lenses work perfectly. If I turn this around and show you. You can see I'll put a little light on there, and then these will go on here, and I'll clean them up, and that will work perfectly. So I am sourcing some things. I've got some brass parts in my ship collection that we're going to use for the two horns up front. And later on in this update, I'll show you the vents. The basic construction of this is you've got your RV, your Winnebago, and then you've got your wings, which go on either side. And the way that works is your mount is going to go like somewhere around here, like such. The engine, here's the engine, and this will have an interior, because I'm going to light it. I'm going to put some blue pulsing engine lights, and that will go in there like that. But this lives like this, like that. And then the wing, it's, so you see here, the wing, come on, there. The wing lives like that. So let me turn this to camera so you can see. So that's kind of what it's going to look like. So we're going to have blue, sort of pulsating engine lights in the back. I was going to put some little green nav lights, flashing nav lights here, but I think I'm going to actually put them on the roof of this thing. But if I can hold this to camera like this, you can see it's pretty cool. I mean, that's the whole kit and caboodle. So it is not it's not complicated in terms of what it is, but it is going to be fun to detail it out, get it painted correctly, and have it looking, you know, like something from the film. It's a very crude kit. These resin kits, you know, if you follow me at all, sometimes you get a doozy. This one is a doozy, but that's part of the fun of the hobby, right? But let me show you some of the things you did get. We got this, which is the undercarriage, and it's kind of got it's all sort of crudely put together, but that's okay. You're never really going to see it. But the idea here is that this sits down, it drops down into the model like such. Oh. Of course, when you want to do these things on camera, the camera gremlins decide they're going to mess with you and not let you do it. Okay, there we go. So that's going to live somewhere around there. You've got double wheels for the back, and they'll kind of live somewhere around like this, and I'll get some brass rod for the axle. We'll drill through here, and that will create the rear wheels. And then the front wheels are just singles, and they'll sit here like this, like that, and we'll create a chassis for that. Now there is a there is this axle part that you get that goes with it, which needs to be cleaned up, obviously, and that if you believe if you believe in this insanity, it's supposed to live like that. So we might do that and just add a little bit of brass rod to the end of it, so that it looks like it's actually on a axle. Of course, you can't see any of that. I apologize. There we go. So that's what I'm talking about right there. It's just not long enough to connect to these goofy wheels. Now, I have been trying to source some things, and it's kind of wacky, because it's like between scales. It's not 125, it's not 132. It's probably around 126, 122, somewhere around there. I don't know, because some parts that I've sourced from some kits, basic plastic kits, seem to be in proportion and others don't. The wheels are a perfect example of that. This looks like perhaps a 1/48 scale Jeep wheel might work, but honestly, these will clean up fine, and I'm not going to stress. I'm not going to stress over it, because they'll clean up fine. So I'm just sort of going to go with that. And all my my lights will be in here. I'm going to put right here in the center just a little switch for the battery, I think, or perhaps even just a plug so it can be plugged in. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But that's sort of the undercarriage that they give you in all of its sort of genius crudeness. I'll get you closer so you can see. This is what arrived. So, you know, I mean, we can have a little bit of fun with it, and we will. We'll clean it up. Some of the other parts that you get, and you don't get many, you get this sort of grill. This is supposed to be the engine grill. It's fine. I've cleaned it out, and you know, it'll sit in there nicely. So we'll play with that. We'll clean up these we'll find a little frame for these headlights. That'll be fine. We're going to figure out the window situation. I am talking to Jeff about that right now. But I wanted to show you, I got these seats. These seats came from a 1/25th scale Mack truck. And if I stick them in the windows, they'll kind of would work if I needed to use those. And I could also source a steering wheel as well. But the great Jeff Fink is actually working on an interior for me as we speak. So I think I could get super lucky. And then the other thing they give you are the air vent / air conditioning units. This is what they get. This is what they give you. Very crude. Obviously, it has to be cleaned up if you're going to use it. I'm not going to use these. I'm going to actually, I'm printing off some new ones as we speak. So I'm definitely going to be using those. So I think you've met all the parts. Well, this is the only other thing they give you, and they would have you believe that this is your windshield. Now, I mean, he just sort of, you can see what he did. He just kind of just used a mold from this. He just sort of took a mold off the front of it like that in this clear stuff, and it's just so crude. I mean, and it's just completely, you know, it's not a windshield. It's just not usable. So I don't know, you know, I don't want to be rude, so I'm going to say nothing. But anyway, this is what happens when you get these garage kits. You know, you've got to sort of figure it out. Oh, and in fairness and in full disclosure, I did get some clear acrylic sheets. I did get a couple of those. So those should be enough, just regular acrylic should be enough for these windows, and then I'm going to create some louver windows to hang in them. I think it'll be fun. So that is it. Here's something fun to look at. This is the actual filming miniature. And you can see there's not a whole lot to it. The only thing I haven't sourced yet and haven't quite figured out is the windshield wipers. I haven't figured out the windshield wipers yet, but I'm going to. Here's it from the rear. That's fun. So I'm going to use those. I've got these blue pulsing, they're called breathing lights that you get from Evans Design. So there's no need for a board here. They'll just pulse, and everything else will be on. And, you know, that's how it'll look for my presentation. Cannot help but loving the I Love Uranus bumper sticker, which, of course, we will have proudly displayed on our rear bumper as well when we're done. Okay, so that's sort of meet the parts, as my dear friend Lou likes to say. I'm going to continue to clean this up, and we'll sort of, I think we'll look at the vents I'm printing to show you the difference between what you get when you got something, you know, 3D printed that works perfectly. So we'll do that. We'll clean this up a little more. We will show you progress in fixing some of the little dings and divots that I talked about. And we will also talk a little bit more about strategy for how we're going to sort of put this together. Okay? I love progress, and it's really fun when you can sort of combine a whole bunch of different disciplines, and I just really enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, so what I've been doing is I've been working on the RV itself, cleaning it up, adding some detail to it, which I've done. Um, don't worry about the weird sort of overspray here. That's just me playing with different kinds of primers, and none of that will matter because this poor thing is supposed to be beaten up and broken. But anyway. Everything is cleaned up in terms of the various different components. I did add some, I've added a little bit of plastic card here just to square up this top piece. I fixed all the ribbing, and I found some really cool little watch parts that'll go on. I'm not sure in which order, but some of these are just fantastic. But I wanted to show you this up close. So this little watch part, see, this is before, and this will be after, and what a difference that makes. It just cleans it up, and it just gives it just a little touch of reality, and I'm very happy with that. I've got for this little vent here, I've got a little piece of screen that will go in here, and then we'll put something on top of it, like probably another another little square. But you'll see that will go on there, and that will that will help that tremendously. So the other thing I wanted to share with you is I've got myself some opaque clear card. Which I use for diffusion. This is great stuff, great stuff. And look what happens when you stick it behind these windows. You get a fantastic effect. So if we're going to put an interior in here and get some lights on, we'll have clear in the front, but on the sides we'll have this opaque, and it'll be a lot of fun. And then on top of that, what we can do is we can add these little ribs. Here, like, see here, I'm just going to show you this close up. So you add these little ribs to this, and they'll make great little louver blinds in the windows. I think that's just going to really be a nice touch. So the strips themselves will do sort of in a dark brown, and we'll leave this in the opaque, and I think you know, with a couple of little cords hanging down, I think that is I think that's a home run. I think that's going to be great fun. So really made some movement there. I mentioned to you that the great Jeff Fink has been collaborating with me on this model, and I'm telling you, the man is, I can't say enough about him. He's just an awesome human being, and I'm so honored and grateful to have him in my life. So here's what we got with this kit. This is the piece they gave us. You know, with your typical have to sand it all down and clean it up. Very crude and just not very believable. So we've sort of thrown that out, and we've introduced these vents with grates in the back, absolutely perfectly printed. And so there's two of those that will sit on the top, the roof of this. One sits there, and there'll be another one on the back. And those will be your vents. And what I'm really liking about the geometry of this and the sort of slightly overscaled nature of it is it pops as a model. It really, your eyes pull to the various different details, and I love that. The other thing I love is this. This STL file that Jeff sent me came in two pieces. Here they are. You got this piece here, and then you got the rear grate. But I purposely left this one off because I want to show you how beautiful 3D printing is. You match the correct side like this, And I have now, by the way, I've not sanded these. I've not done anything. You just push, push, and you hear it click. Look at that. Look at that. So I would say, quite frankly, that if you are thinking about looking at the future in terms of where model kits are going, I don't know. Unless I'm crazy, this is where it's going. You'll have a catalog and you'll pick your STL files. Printing speeds will be 3 or 4 times faster than they are now, and you'll buy an Airfix kit. You'll push a button. You'll print all the parts at home, and I think that's the future. I could be crazy, but I don't know. So anyway, those are my air vents, all solid and good to go. So I've fabricated, and of course, it broke. It's classic. I'm going to fabricate a wing mirror here. If you can take a look at this. You'll see the wing mirror that is actually attached to the door, so I need to fabricate that, which I will do. And I'm also going to need a handle for the door, as you can see there. And curiously, this has a, as you can see, which I'm not sure I'm going to be able to replicate. I don't know. I'm going to have to figure it out. It has obviously screens to prevent bugs from coming into the camper when the windows are open. So we've got to sort of figure out what we could do for that. I'll see if I can source something, but I think that would be a lot of fun, and definitely worth looking at. The only other thing I wanted to share with you in this segment is my engines. I have I've built them, and I've ran my wire with my blue breathing 3mm from Evans Design into the engine. I brought that into the engine, and because we didn't have that earlier on, but I wanted to show this to you because I think it's perfect. So let me see here. Let's do that. And let's get it on one of these. Let's see here. Let's get it on that for you, like that. And let's fire it up. Now, these. So if you're doing a little model and you don't need a lot of control over things, these kinds of lights are just amazing. So there you go. There's my engine effect. Now, once these are all painted and I've got some some coppers and silvers in there, that's going to be pretty cool. But there's my breathing blue light for the engine, and I'm happy with that. That's going to work a charm. So I've got my engines now. Just need to be puttied and filled, and a little sanding, and then we'll get a coat of primer on these. But these are looking really good. And just to show you how awesome this is, because I mean, come on, this is what it's all about. You have fun with these things, but. You put the engines on the back here, and now all of a sudden you can see you've got Ranger 5. She is good to go. So could not be happier with where we are on this kit. A lot of fun, and it's been a lot of fun to to kind of just see what you can do with a combination of printing your own things and things that you find, you know. But it's coming together. So I think we'll do one more segment in this update. We'll see how we go. I don't know if we're going to get the whole thing built in one show. I don't know. I don't necessarily think we should do that, but you never know. So that's it for this update in this segment. I think we'll do one more segment because I want to share with you just a little more progress on the undercarriage. Perhaps with this undercarriage we'll get this cleaned up. I need to wash it, get it cleaned up, and then figure out what we're going to do with these wheels, because I've got to make sure everything lines up, because just put those over there, because as you can see it needs to sit just a little behind the mud guard, not too far, but just enough to give it that, and just down enough that it sits high, it sits up. So I know this sounds a little crazy, but it's easier said than done, because I've got to get this aligned. I've got to figure out how I'm going to get this all squared up and aligned. I can't glue this in yet because I've got to run my wiring, but I've also got to make sure that I put some kind of a, I'm going to put some kind of a lip in here, so that it, you know, a glue strip, so that it can't go any further than that. So I know I've got it exactly where it needs to be to line that up. And I'll work on that. And then I'm also going to figure out how I'm going to clean up these headlights, because I've cut them out, but they're a little chewed up. So I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I've got some really nice card, plastic card here, as you can see, and that will probably be what we'll do. We'll create some nice, some really cool frames for this. And that might be a good way to go. And I've also got to see whether or not this awful piece that came with the kit, which goes into this grill, is not better served by me just putting in some card all the way down like that. I just think it'll be a lot cleaner. But I don't know. Decisions. But I'm having a blast. It's such a cool subject matter, and I get such a kick out of, you know, having something as iconic as this on the bench that you just know people are going to chuckle when they see it on the shelf. Great fun. Don't mean to be rubbing everybody's nose in it. I'm sorry. It's just one of those things that I happen to be able to get a hold of. And you know what? Not impossible. There's got to be one or two more out there floating around that somebody doesn't want to build. You just got to kind of get lucky, you know. I got lucky, which tells me that the universe wanted this model in my collection. So there you go. Okay, so let me do a little more work on this, and we'll see where we are in terms of timing for the show. I don't like to go longer than an hour. It's not fair on you. But hey, I hope you're having fun. I'm having fun. Let's plow on. Lots going on. It's progressing very well. I gave this a light sanding again just to make sure everything was where I wanted it to, because we're gonna put a base coat on it now, and I'm gonna use buff, which is sort of basically what the color of this Winnebago was. It was that kind of almond, kind of buffy brown, light brown, and then it had darker brown, you know, that classic 70s kind of styling. So we're just about to do that, and I thought, you know, why not just get that on camera. I've I managed to get some paint on the undercarriage here. So that is looking pretty good, and I've done some dry brushing, and I've done a little bit of detailing on it. I've not put any washes on that yet. I've got the wheels painted and drying now, so the undercarriage should be pretty good to go, and the wings have got some putty on them, and they're drying now. So they'll get a coat of primer. And then what we'll do after that is we'll start looking at some of the fabrication work we're going to have to do. I have, in the meantime, decided that this piece that came with the kit, I just didn't like it. You know, it sort of is buckled here, and you know, it's a classic just piece of resin that didn't get poured nicely. So I went ahead and fabricated my own, and I've got that painted up, and that is much more accurate to the Winnebago anyway, and it sits in the it sits in that groove quite nicely. Okay, so let us get a little bit of color on this. I think that, you know, one of the things that I've certainly been learning over the last couple of years, and more so, even more so from my dear friend Lou Dalmaso over at Aztec Dummy, is color. Color is really important, and it's getting color down. You know, it's getting your base colors down, but it's also about blending your colors. So making sure that you've got a nice contrast in your color palette. So that's sort of what I'm, you know, I've learned over the last couple of years. So again, now this is just sort of a base coat that we're putting down, and then we'll sort of really start to see this thing come alive. I'm using Tamiya, and I've thinned it with some lacquer because I want this to sort of go off pretty quickly. I don't really want to wait too long for this to settle. It's a banged up RV, so I'm not too worried about the way this was molded. You know, I could spend hours and hours trying to clean this up and make it perfect, when ultimately the filming miniature was not perfect. In fact, it was pretty banged up. So I thought, you know what, this will look pretty good banged up. So I'm not too worried about that. There. But I think you'll agree that's sort of starting to come together. Now, obviously, you're seeing, as it's drying very quickly, you're seeing this sort of base coat go into the primer, and on camera, you know, it's obviously looking a little patchy, and that's quite normal for a sort of a first coat, because obviously you're just trying to get everything down. Next coat goes on, and it starts to get just a little thicker, and that's looking really good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to get a base coat on this, and then after we get the base coat on it, we'll start to we'll talk a little bit about details, window fabrication, and, you know, sort of getting in some wiring for the brake lights in the rear and the headlights in the front, and sort of start to look at how we're going to get those frames cleaned up, because we're going to need to do that. But I wanted to get a base coat on here just so that I could really see what I'm looking at. It's really helpful. Okay, so let's get this. I'll get this base coated, and then we'll start to look at some of the wiring. Okay, I got a couple of coats of the Buff X57 on this, and I'm super happy with it. Super happy with it. And now, obviously, we're going to have to start aging it down and adding some detail to it and cleaning it up. We've got to get the window frames to be either an off-white or a black. I'm not sure. Hard to tell from this photo, but it does appear as though the frames are black. At least that's what they're looking like to me. But I have not sourced any kind of screen material yet for those windows. But I'll think of something. We'll figure it out. But we definitely need to figure it out. So that there's that to work on. The headlights, if you can see here, I've got one deliberately not finished. As I mentioned to you, they weren't super easy to get cleaned out, and I've chewed up the corners here. I'll get you closer so you can see that. There we go. So what I've done is I've added some evergreen styrene strip to this, and I've just glued this down. And then what I'll do is I'll sand this all down, smooth it out. I'll clean up the corners, and we'll get another coat of paint on that, and that should be perfect. Because then what I'll do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to put some of my whoa, back of the head. Look at that. Look how beautiful that gray hair is. Take a look. Anyway, I've got my my go-to, which is my Solarez, and what I'll do with that is I will drop that in these in here for the lenses, and my bulbs will go behind it. Now there are four headlights. These lights at the top are all amber, and these ones at the bottom are supposed to be amber as well. Conversely, in the back, we've got red lights here. I guess will be for either your brake or indicator, and these will be amber as well. So I'm gonna work on that. I'm dangerously close to putting a couple of little nav lights here. They're not on the filming miniature, so they would not be, as we say, canon. But I don't know. You know, once again, it's my model. I'll do whatever I want. No, I'm. When I've sort of gotten through my petulant moment, I'll really think that through. I'm very happy with this new grid that I built. That's fun, and that just sort of drops in like that, and that'll work really well. That's a huge improvement over what we had. So I'm happy with that. Now, what I've got to do is, besides getting that frame in, I've got to run my headlights. So I'm using 3mm LEDs, pre-resisted. Everything on this will be pre-resisted, so I won't need, there'll be no board. Everything will be pre-resisted, and it'll run at 9 volts. And I'll probably, I'll figure out is how to get a battery inside here. I mean, why not? And then the way it's going to be presented is kind of like I guess, well, kind of like this on an angle, you know, like as if it's sort of taking off or it's flying, something like that on an angle, and I'll figure out what the appropriate base is for that. But I've got to get the headlights in. I've got to get my red brake lights in, and then that will do for all of the lighting, except then I'll have to mount my engines, which I've puttied. Here they are. I've puttied these. We looked at them earlier, but now they're all puttied and ready for another coat of primer and just to get sanded, and then they'll get. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to attach these, because they're actually quite heavy. I think it's probably going to be just epoxy, and what I'll do is I'll do one at a time. I'll lean it on its side like that. That's sort of the best way to do it, and let it cure. I think that's the best way to do it, and then that way I can line it up, and then I can line the other one up, and we should be perfect on both sides. So that's probably the way I'll do that. And then once I've got this all sanded down, this will get a coat of the buff as well. My instinct is to not do this until the very last moment, because it's going to be a lot easier for me to paint these detailed and then get everything on them. And then once I've got everything on them, then it's just a function of gluing these on, and I can put some kind of a strip or something here to hide that joint. Although it does look pretty clean. So maybe I won't have to once this is epoxied down. We shall see. So the other thing I wanted to show you is I've been working on the wheels. Here they are. And they're looking pretty good. They've had a coat of, just a little coat of mud on them. And so they're looking good. They need a little bit of a touch up. And then once I've touched these up, I'll seal them, and they should be good to go. And the net result of that, of course, is then I can attach them to the chassis. If they're attached to the chassis, then one element that just gets dropped in. I don't have to worry about things because, you know, it's just a function really of making sure that I'm sort of where I need to be. Now, the only reason why I think this is a good place to end this update is because my dear friend Jeff Fink, I think he's working on an interior. And if he's working on an interior, then I've got a little more lighting I might want to do, or get some fiber optics in there with some blinkies, so you could, because this window is quite big. It's you know, you're going to see quite a bit, and so if you can see it, then I think we should light it. Why not? And I've got another great little trick up my sleeve from Evans Designing. It's a string of lights that they're blinkies, and they're all random, and they're nano chips, and so we can probably hide those in different places. So we just get a sort of a lighting effect, and that might be a lot of fun. That might be a lot of fun. So there it is. I think that's we'll call it update number 1, because otherwise it just goes on and on and on and on and on. But I'm really really enjoying this. It's fun, and it's, you know, it's going to come together. And I'm a big fan of weathering. I love to weather everything and age things down, and this is just screaming for it. So that's good. I've also got to print out the new decal set, so I'll get that printed out, and I'll share that with you in the next update. But Anyway, that is it for this update. Thank you for joining me on this journey to get Ranger 5 on the shelf where it belongs. I'm super excited about this build because it's one of those iconic kind of film things that I'm just a big fan of. So I'm thrilled to have this on the bench. There you go. As always, I wish all of you, please be well, be safe, build something, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.